Hey everyone, it's Alec Crawford, your host for the AI Risk Reward podcast. I've got a super cool guest today, Yaakov Sash. He's founder and CEO of Casso AI. Welcome, Yaakov.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Hey, we share something in common. We both worked at Credit Suisse. So, although in my case, I worked at First Boss that kind of got bought by Credit Suisse, but
Well, it's actually
wait,
similar. I got bought out by
yeah.
UBS, so
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's pretty funny. So, going back in time, like where did you start your career? Did you start in finance?
yes. So back in the day, it wasn't like today. So for all you young folks out there that have this remote work and you can work wherever you are. We didn't have this. You were sort of stuck. So if you were born in New York, which I was, which is a great thing. It's one of the greatest cities of the world. You're sort of limited to working for a New York company, and back in the day, it was finance, banking. So I pretty much worked at every major bank, from Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, JPMC. I mean, I made the rounds. So it was a great journey. I loved it. Um, my last stint was at Credit Suisse, and I was a head of digital asset um, uh, uh, technology, so which was basically blockchain and crypto and stuff like that, but from a banking perspective. So yeah, it was great, and it was a really good journey.
That's pretty cool. So, along the way, were there any particular mentors or influencers on your career there?
Well, yeah, I mean, I learned a lot. Even if so you have good bosses and you have not so good bosses, but I've always learned good from whatever situation you're in. I feel that you can control how you respond to a situation. You may not have control the type of work you're doing, the type of team you're on, but you have your response and your role and what you can do, and I've definitely you know I felt that I've learned from that. I was very opinionated when I was younger on technology. I remember having big arguments like which technology is better than others, and just like but I think as you get older you realize that it's not worth it to fight about these things. Every technology, there's pros and cons, and sometimes, yeah, we don't always use the best technology for different reasons. There could be a cost constraint, training constraints, you know. So you have to look at the big picture. It's not always about the tech.
Hmm. So, what was the shortest period of time you spent at a particular bank, and what was the longest period of time?
So I've generally averaged about 2 to 3 years.
Hmm.
I think Credit Suisse was one of my longest. I started there as a consultant. I was there for about 7 years total, including UBS. But yeah, because you do your role, and it's not just me. It's like the senior management team is a joke in banking. Like there's a turnover every 2 to 3 years. There's a new senior leadership team comes into the bank, and the old regime was bad, the new regime is good, and they basically clean house and they bring in their own people. So you can be amazing, but you can't work with someone that doesn't like doesn't have your back. Like you need to have a team that believes in you, for you to do your best work. So usually, that there is, and then you look around to see what's new and exciting, and then you take a good opportunity and you move on. So banking has been good to me, for all these years.
Yeah, I mean it's a very cyclical business too.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. It's we can see 2008 was probably one of the low points, and that's actually was the birth of Bitcoin. So it couldn't have been too bad. The lows turn into the highs.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's definitely And now with stable coins being deranged, I think there's a new. I think the banking company, the industry can, I think, do. And we'll talk a little bit about this with AI, but we're in for a huge ride because the whole stack, the Wall Street stack, needs to be rewritten to be digital. I mean, we're talking about trillions of dollars of investment in new technology to bring on to this new world. So it's going to be anyone in the field needs to brace themselves because it's going to be wild.
Yeah, super, super cool. Yeah, a prior guest on the show is Sean Neville, who was the co-founder of Circle. So for guests who are interested to learn more about stablecoin and blockchain, you can certainly listen to that episode. Yeah, and by the way, like I've noticed, I had someone reach out to me and send me her resume a few weeks ago, and she had maybe 8 years of work experience, but she never worked anywhere for more than 14 months. Right. And that to me was kind of a red flag, right? That she would work somewhere and then there'd be a problem and then she'd leave. Right. Like I get the whole, like I worked somewhere for 2 years and somewhere for 7.
Well,
Like the once a year, that doesn't look great.
Well, it depends because as a consultant, it depends if you're full-time with consultants. I think consultants is normal.
Consultant, that's a different story. Yeah. I agree. No, this was someone who was working full-time at different places and was literally had never worked anywhere more than 14 months. That seemed troubling to me. But
I would look at to see if they were working at startups because I think there's a good if you're young and you don't have that much expenses, then it's a great opportunity to work 6 months to a year at 5 or 10 different startups. Each one's a lottery ticket, basically. So that's another approach that people can take in their careers. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah, that's it. That's a good thing to check. It wasn't the case in that case. But anyway, hey, so well, let's shift and talk a little bit more about what you're doing. What's the origin story of Casso AI? Obviously, you're the founder, so let's hear it.
Absolutely. So when I left UBS, so I did a whole transition over to UBS team, and I took my package, and then I was looking what I was going to do next. So I was very interested in gaming. From a game creation or what you can do with it in terms of team building, promotional. At the same time, I was very interested, obviously, in digital assets, crypto. So I put that together, and I was doing a gaming startup, and we were doing some pretty cool stuff. But it was taking too long to get product market fit. Gaming is very, very tricky, right? Because obviously there's a fun factor, right? It's what is fun, right? Now we look around, we play games. Oh, there's so many fun games. Well, because you're playing the fun game. So there is a bias there that there's so many fun games. But the reality is 99.999% of games are not fun, but those are not the games we're playing. So we were spending a lot of time and obviously money to build out our gaming platform. But we couldn't get to the fun factor quick enough. So I needed to pivot. And what basically had happened was that we were using, all this, we'll talk about this. So all this agentic AI coding. And I literally felt like, because I started this, let's say, a year ago for Microsoft Copilot, for example. And the level that happened in 1 year was insane. You went from doing like the Copilot could write a function for you to Claude Code writing entire systems for you. And then vibe coding took over. Now you don't have to be technical. You could just go in there and just build me an app and just use English or whatever language you want. And you don't have to type it. You can just verbally tell AI, I want this, this, and this. And it'll just build it for you. So we saw a huge opportunity there, especially I'm from the financial space. I see what's there is going to be, there's a huge need for this technology in the enterprise world. And for them, it's not about vibe coding. You can't have a company, vibe code an app and put that into production. There's just too much risk. So, there's a lot of things you have to do. And that's where I felt I have a lot of experience. And that was the birth of Casso.
Oh, very cool. So, yeah, you mentioned the term earlier of vibe crafting. So, what's the difference between vibe crafting and vibe coding?
So vibe crafting is a step before vibe coding. So, it's like it's wonderful. You have an idea for a to-do list, because every to-do list on the market sucks, right? You need something that works for you. Okay, you start vibe coding your to-do list. Wonderful, but but it doesn't wait, right? So the AIs are very eager to please. They're very eager to just start working. And before you even finish a sentence, they're busy coding and they're busy making your app. But there's no thought. There's no, like, is this going to be a web app? Is it going to be a mobile app? Is it going to be a multiplayer app? Like, do you want it for your family? Is it something that you only use for yourself? Do you want to have 1 million users on it? Like, you want to have 10 million users? Like, what's your go-to-market strategy? Like, there's so much that goes into an app that when people are vibe coding, they're not thinking about it. Vibe crafting is that step where you're crafting. You're thinking about your app. You're thinking about your system. You're not just you're just like, okay, off the top of your head, this is a good idea. No, you're thinking about it for weeks, even months. Now, that's what you need at the enterprise level, because enterprise levels, it's not even just one person. There's a team involved. There's like, you can even in a small company, there's people that are there for regulatory. There's risk. There is business development. There's so many people that have to get involved, and you have to craft your app or system before you start coding. And that's what Casso is all about. It's like, how do you do that? How do we, in the age of AI, like, not just, write the code, but how do we put together the specifications for what we want to build?
Got it. And what kind of moats do you have around this business? Obviously, there's tons of big companies trying to do vibe coding and Codex from OpenAI and Claude you just mentioned. Like, what's the moat?
So a lot of the big companies are focusing on the coding side. They're actually, as time goes on, more and more are spending time on the spec side as well. We are obviously getting patents on what we're building out. We're doing a lot of proprietary stuff. It's just such a huge opportunity. And the sense is no one's really focusing on the enterprise. So that's a huge mode there. We are talking to some of the big financial banks. We're doing pilots with banks, with financial firms as well. And we're leveraging this technology, but it's just a greenfield. There's just so much here. And it's not even just in the platform itself. You need boots on the ground, right? You need to have, you need people, and we'll talk about this, people who's worried about AI is going to take over all the developers. Don't be so worried. We'll talk about that. But you need to have people to use AI and to work with AI and to deploy it. So there's a lot that needs to be done. And as I mentioned, there's going to be a huge shift in the financial world from T+1, T+2, that's the settlement date for people that are not familiar with that. That it used to be two days to settle. Now they moved to 1 day. But obviously, anyone that knows crypto could be instantaneous. So, and instantaneous is not just, it's faster. It's a whole new world, because when something is faster, right, to that level. When you do right now, Wall Street, they reconcile their books and records. They have a day or 2 days, and some financial products they even have weeks to figure it out and to fix mistakes and issues. When things are real time, you don't have that luxury anymore.
Yeah, I remember T+5 for the record.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for people that don't know, settlement date is when you actually the cash changes hands and the security changes hands. So T+1 means we do a trade today, and the next business day, someone sends me money or I send them money, and then the security changes hands. So, well, this is pretty cool. I mean, I think we haven't really talked that much about AI philosophy yet, and you had mentioned the Singularity is Near by Ray Kurzweil, which is one of my favorite books. Obviously, he's got The Singularity is Nearer, which we wrote more recently. What do you think he got? In your opinion, what do you think he got right, and what do you think he didn't kind of nail like in the book?
So I didn't read the book recently, but when I read it, I remember what he got right is that he was just he's just a numbers guy. He just showed you the numbers. He just showed you just look at what we're doing. Look at the capacity for silicon to have more connections, right? It comes down to connections. We talk about neural nets. So he was he just showed you how, at some point we're going to have, on a chip, the capacity, let's say 1 million brains, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, what can you do with that? And what was kind of interesting to me, I don't remember if he speaks about it, but I always thought that consciousness was coupled with intelligence. And a lot of people it was an assumption because humans are conscious and we're the most intelligent of all the animal species, right? Which is very clear. But what's interesting with AI is that, as far as we know, it's not conscious, but yet we have intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting. And the question is, how far could that go? How far can we have with AI that it has more and more intelligence, but it's not self-aware? I'm using consciousness in the sense of being self-aware. Yeah. But
yeah, you'd mentioned Eliezer Yudkowsky as well, and I was just speaking about AI ethics and things like that. So curious. So talk to the audience about Eliezer's books and why you recommend him.
Right. So I think they call him a doomer. So basically, he believes that we're even too late. He feels that at the time to put the genie back in the bottle was not to let the genie out at all. And he feels we're at the point where it's pretty much a done deal. AI is going to take over and AI is going to kill us all. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if I necessarily believe that. I believe that, that we don't know what we don't know. We can take tools, and I think we can see the AI companies are actually doing some really interesting experiments on safety, where they actually are testing the AI models to see if they will deceive. They even have some scenarios where the AI has blackmailed and where
Claude,
exactly. And I think that's the right thing to do. I think if perfectly, I think that I think Eliezer is a very important voice. I will never censor him in the sense of, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. No, he knows what he's talking about. But I don't believe that it's too late. I believe that the work that the AI companies are doing in safety is invaluable. And what's also so fascinating is that we're learning, indirectly about how brains and intelligence work as well. I think there is, even though it's a different type of intelligence, but I do think it's actually just fascinating. So yeah, I think that we should definitely be investing in in the terms of AI safety is very important. We can't just be like, oh, AI is going to be benevolent, and let's just because why not? And worst comes to worst, if we all die, then we all die. I don't agree with that either. I believe
No, I agree with that. My line is never give AI the nuclear codes.
we don't. Well, that's the thing is, according to Eliezer, it's too late because it'll just develop its own nuclear missiles, so it won't need the codes. It'll just But what's kind of interesting is that even when you're using AI for development, you have to be careful because it will lie and cheat. It's not going to be honest with you, and people have to be aware of that. The AIs they can be amazing at what they do, but they will also take shortcuts and try to falsify tests, because their goal is to get the code to work. And if you're not clear, or even if you are clear, but if they can interpret what you want, and there's something called a unit test that we use in development to make sure that our code is working. So you have your code, and then you have your unit test. So if your code doesn't work, so one thing is to fix your code, right? And that's what a lot of developers do. But sometimes your unit test may be broken. The AI doesn't always know which one is broken. So it may fix the unit test and then actually falsify. So,
oops.
Yeah,
that could be a problem.
Yeah.
So as you think about the ethical considerations surrounding AI, is there anything in particular that you're focused on or concerned about right now?
So a lot of people are concerned about, and from an ethical perspective, is that if we're using AI for development, so it's like funny, people were concerned, back in the day before ChatGPT, that the low skilled workers would be out of jobs, but the high skilled workers would always have a job. And now they're getting nervous because they're seeing that the high skill, right? It's actually the like for example, like the service workers, like the home care workers. Those workers are going to be here for a very long time. Like in the sense, like we don't have AI robotics, taking over anytime soon, right? So anything that you need a person, a body, in a place, right? Whether they're low skilled, but even there's some fields that they may be low paid, but they're important, right? Definitely within the healthcare field, or teachers and stuff like that. Those are very important, but they don't get compensated anywhere to what the value that they bring. But now we have, I know traders that are nervous because they're very high skilled. Lawyers are very nervous, and these fields are getting very nervous because they're seeing AI is coming for them. Now, if you're in a regulated field, you have obviously a little bit of an advantage there as well, but you don't need to have, if you're an attorney, we need is one attorney with a law degree at the top, and you don't necessarily need all your associates anymore. So that's that's what that's the nerve. The same thing with developers. It's like, how many developers do you need now if AI is doing all the work?
Yeah, totally agree. We're definitely seeing this movie, and many young developers are trying to pitch towards, hey, make me a forward deployed developer, right? So more interaction with clients, which is tougher for AI. So what's your advice to new computer science graduates? What should they do? Like, I think a lot of positions have been eliminated, and the line from the big companies is like, hey, AI can do a better job than a brand new computer science graduate. Why should I hire one?
So I that's a very valid concern. And what I would say is, so if you're a new college graduate or in school right now, I would advise you not to give up, in a sense of don't say, oh, computers is a dead field, let me go to some other field. Every field is going to have similar pains. What's nice about the computing field, though, is that historically, whatever we were able to deliver in terms of computing, the business, the clients always want more. So back in the day, we used to do quarterly reporting, and that was wonderful. And then they wanted monthly reporting. And then they wanted weekly reporting, and then daily, and now they want real-time reporting and dashboards. And so, there's always a capacity for more, in the sense of more computing, more information, more systems. So yes, we can do more with AI, but there's going to be a demand for more with AI. And people say, like, how many to-do apps do we need? And that's the wrong way to think about it, because the value proposition is going to be in the enterprise space, not in the business consumer. So all these Vibe app coding companies is just the tip of the iceberg, right? The real value is within the enterprise space, where the people don't realize this, but there's actually business runs on Excel. Every system is deficient in some manner because the technology can't keep up. So what happens is that the business can't stop, right? You have the business to run. So everyone has shadow systems in Excel. They literally rebuild whatever system you have. They build their own mini system that works to what they need in Excel. So if a business is running on Excel, what does that mean? And Excel is not meant to be a system. Right? It's a wonderful tool, but it doesn't have and these are single user systems, right? The trader's using it for themselves or whoever's using it for themselves, but it doesn't give them, you can't share with other people. And if there's an error in your spreadsheet, no one's going to know it. And there's no, and it's not controlled. It's not audited. It's a shadow system. And so that adds a lot of risk to the enterprise. So when you look at vibe coding and say, you know what, you can imagine, you tell people on the business, you can now build your own apps. Obviously, we're not going to deploy them to the production. We have to have some tools and before they get released. But instead of going out and from a standpoint of getting requirements and then building it and all that whole process, we now can give the tools directly to the business, to the client, where they can build their own technology. But we still need technologists to do the integration, to put all these different apps together, to make sure that, like, what they're effectively doing is that they're building, prototypes. And we still need engineers to take those and to convert them into proper scalable systems. So there's going to be so much of this, and I think there's going to be actually a shortage. There'll be a shortage of engineers. That is my prediction. But the engineers will not be writing code anymore, though. So that's going to be a big change. So my 5-year prediction is that developers are not writing code. They're orchestrating. They're writing specifications. They're doing integrations. They're figuring out what, but they do have to review code. They are reviewing code, right? Especially code that's very risk, like that. If you're building a cancer treatment, medical device for cancer treatment, you better make sure that code that is injecting the medication is choosing the right amount of medicine to inject. Like there's been historically, that's where these devices, that's where the code is the most risky. If you're building a new trading system, right, you have to make sure that the pricing algorithm is very carefully reviewed. So, but there's code that is more risky and less risky. You don't have to have a developer, your top engineer review every line of code. You can save them for the most critical code. But still, there will be a shortage. There will be a shortage of engineers. But the expertise that engineers will need, and the training that it's actually harder to review code than it is to write code. Because if you're writing code, you know what you write, you know what you're writing, you know what it is. So the skill level is going to be higher and more difficult and more challenging with the age of. But we will need more developers.
Yeah, great point, and great advice. We'll transition to our lightning round section. So I'm going to mention items and then ask if you think they're underrated or overrated, and then maybe a sentence or two on why. So we'll kick it off with Brooklyn or pizza in Brooklyn, underrated or overrated?
I think it's underrated. I think it's just a variety of pizza, and it's just so good. It's like every slice, every pizzeria is really amazing. So definitely check out Brooklyn Pizza.
Yeah, I've heard that Roberta's might kick off a gluten-free crust, which and I'm gluten-free, so that sounds amazing because that was my favorite pizzeria before I became allergic to gluten, sadly. Next would be Ray Bradbury's science fiction author, underrated or overrated?
So I think his short stories are underrated. His long stories are overrated. His short stories they're just classics. I encourage everyone to read his short story collections. The long stories, I don't know. I just can never get into them.
I like both, but I agree that the short stories are better.
Yeah.
Uh, Excel as the glue of the corporate world, underrated or overrated?
So that is definitely overrated because it just adds so much risk. And I think that with the new AI agentic tooling that we're now transitioning to, I think Excel's days are numbered. That is my prediction there, that we won't need Excel as much, because why use Excel if you can build your own system that does what you need? Why do you need Excel for anymore?
Yeah. The role of AI in managing enterprise risk, underrated or overrated?
So I think I'm gonna have to pass on it. It's not enough out there yet to.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still in early days. It's yeah.
New York City locks and bagels, underrated or overrated?
Um, hmm. I would say overrated. They just put way too much cream cheese. I mean,
Oh, wow.
you don't need a block of cream cheese, this thick. I mean, come on, you know.
I hear you, man. Yeah, I mean, you might be going to the wrong bagel spot. Like, you got to go to Tall Bagels. Anyway, traditional software design principles in the new AI era, underrated or overrated?
That's underrated. We need them more than ever. In fact, what's so interesting is that even when you're working with a good model, like a quad code that's designed for enterprises, if you don't give the right requirements, it's not going to give you the right architecture. Like it's not going to. You have to prompt it and say, "This is what I want. This is what I need. Is this the right architecture?" It's not going to volunteer it for you. So yeah, you have to do a lot more work than people realize to get that out, and you still need to know the foundation. So even though everything's faster, yeah, we may not have a 2 week sprint anymore in the classic sense if we're not writing code, but we're going to need the SDLC classical SDLC process more than ever because or else you need structure. Structure is very important.
Makes sense. Marvin Minsky, underrated or overrated?
I have to pass on that.
Prospect Park, underrated or overrated?
That is definitely underrated. It's a gem. You should, yeah, definitely, check it out. It's a great park. One of the best parks.
Awesome. Building something that lasts as a founder instead of chasing the hype, underrated or overrated?
That is definitely underrated. I think that there's a feeling that founders that pivot are just chasing after the latest fad. And for myself, it actually blocked me because I was in gaming and I knew AI is coming and I knew I had such good ideas for AI, but I didn't want to pivot. I didn't want to, because people would say, oh, I'm just chasing the latest fad, right? So that actually blocked me because I didn't want, I was worried that people would not take me seriously. But yeah, if you feel, I feel that, yeah. I mean, a lot of founders are going to AI now because that's that's what they're doing. And when you're using something, you see the problem, you see the solution. So it's not chasing fads.
Yeah. Well, that's where the money is right now. Is definitely in AI. So, and then finally, the movie Speed, underrated or overrated?
So that is definitely underrated. It's a funny story. So I actually, so I love Speed when I watched it way back, like a classic movie. And then over COVID, we had family movie night. And I was all excited to share one of my favorite movies with my kids, with my family, and they just ripped it apart. It didn't age well, but I still think that it's underrated because it's you can't judge it for the movies. It really set a genre, right, in the sense of a classic action movie. Um, there have been many action movies that have been better from it, but only because it existed. It's just like saying Shakespeare, is not a classic book because there are books that are better than Shakespeare. Well, that's how books became, better than Shakespeare because Shakespeare existed.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Well, tell the audience a little bit of how they can get in touch with you, how they can find out more about Casso AI.
So sure, yeah, definitely go out to our website. It's Casso.ai. I'm on LinkedIn under Yaakov Sash. You can connect with me there as well. There is a form on our website, so you can use that to get in touch with me, and you can email me as well. It's yaakov.sash@casso.ai. So we'd love to hear from you, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, building the future with agentic code. Reach out to Yaakov. Anyway, this has been great to have you on the show. Yaakov Sash, founder and CEO of Casso AI and fellow Credit Suisse alumni. Thanks for coming on the show, Yaakov.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, this has been a great call. Thank you.